we have some alumni. I know we have some industry professionals and a few special guests. Speaking of rock stars, does anybody know what Steve Jobs' business model was? He told us in his book, but a lot of people missed it. Maybe didn't read his book. Steve Jobs of Apple. His business model wasn't the inventor of the light bulb, Thomas Edison, or it wasn't GE's Rockstar CEO, Jack Welch. His business model was, are you ready for this? You know what? If you're on a desktop or you're at a desk or a couch, wherever you are, give me a drum roll. Pat on something. The Beatles. The Beatles. Now here's the CEO of Apple, a company that helped change the world as we know it, and he used the Beatles as his business model. So that got me thinking, what else can we learn about rock stars that applies to what we do or what we want to do in the future? It turns out there's a lot. In the next few minutes, we're going to give you 4 solid rock success principles that come directly from rock stars that will help stimulate your way of thinking, or maybe think a little bit differently. Because my friend Ed Tate said, last month's business model is already thrown out. This month is a whole new game plan. So we're going to have to start thinking a little bit differently. These 4 principles will help you do that. And the cool thing is, you don't have to hang out with groupies or trash any of the hotels on the Las Vegas Strip. Sound cool? All right, let's get this TISOH party started. Did you know that almost every popular song you hear on the radio or streamed is made up of some variation of the exact same 4 chords? It's true. We're going to check out a video from a band called The Axis of Awesome, where they're playing a bunch of popular tunes all sung over the exact same 4 chords. So listen, watch, and see how many of these songs you recognize. On your mark, get set, now live your life that way.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. No woman, no cry, but this surely is a dream. I come from a land down under.
Sounds like somebody has some pretty tight underwear. Well, these 4 chords are the foundation or the building blocks of becoming a rock star. And when you master them in your profession or in school, then you're on your way to becoming an industry rock star. Therefore, in business, we call the 4 solid rock success principles the 4 chords of rock star success. And we've broken them down into the A, the B, the C, and the D chords. But today, we're going to do them backwards. Why? Somebody tell me. Yeah, because we're rock stars. We don't have to play by the rules. We're rebels, and the crowd goes wild. Woo! Okay, some of you still aren't with me. You're still not buying into this. Look, this is great for introverts. Introverts, you can yell and scream and get crazy and nobody's going to know. You're in your office or you're home by yourself. So let me explain that phrase and where it came from. And some of you may remember this. It was a few years ago when I was headlining my show at the Venetian at a place called the Bourbon Room. Yes, that's me. It was a spinoff of the Rock of Ages show. And during our live broadcast and performance every night, I had a catchphrase that I would use to keep the audience engaged and keep people's attention or focused. And that phrase was, and the crowd goes wild. And that was the audience's cue to throw their jazz hands in the air and scream. And then when I morphed back into professional speaking and training and education, I was trying to figure out, how can I use that phrase and apply it to business to where others would understand? And then it hit me. You know, as industry professionals or students, we want more, or business people, we want more than just satisfied customers, right? We want raving fans who will enthusiastically go out and tell everybody how awesome we are. But if we're not excited, how do we expect to get everybody else excited? Even with technology at our fingertips, the research still shows that the best way to acquire new business, the best way to get your foot into an organization, to get a job interview, relationship marketing, the almighty referral, knowing somebody. So, we're going to try that phrase again. And this time, hopefully by the end of the, broadcast, we'll get this. But this is what I want you to do. I'm going to say, and the crowd goes wild. I don't care where you are. I want you to throw your jazz hands up in the air and scream. There's power in jazz hands, all right? Just let me get in the character. And the crowd goes wild! Woo! Yeah! All right, ladies and gentlemen, friends of all ages, please welcome to the screen your D-Chord. Dreams, goals, vision. Now, we have all heard that we have to have them, right? And nothing is further from the truth, especially now. Some people are in survival mode, and we have to get out of survival mode. It's more important to have dreams and vision now more than ever. I mean, the cool thing about rock stars is that they have big, unreasonable dreams. We call it their bud. They don't just want to get by and pay the bill and have a nice retirement. They want to take over the world and rule the universe. I mean, rock star success requires a big, unreasonable dream. I mean, here's a perfect example of Madonna. On Madonna's first appearance on American Bandstand with Dick Clark, he asked her, he goes, plastic surgery face, "Madonna, what are your dreams?" And her response, "To rule the world, Dick." Big and unreasonable? You bet. Therefore, rock star success requires a big, unreasonable dream. And I would argue that your future, your continued success is going to require a big, unreasonable dream. I mean, here's the deal. Why is a bud so important? This is the phrase that pays. Write this down, take a picture of it. We'll give it to you at the end of the show, because reasonable isn't profitable. This is your tweetable, your Insta quote right here. Reasonable isn't profitable. Reasonable is not going to get you a job. Reasonable is not going to get your foot in the door. Reasonable is not going to acquire new business. Rockstar success requires a big, unreasonable dream. I mean, here's the deal. If your bud isn't so big that you wake up at 4:30 in the morning and you're ready to jump out of bed and take on the world, and your inner circle calls you a workaholic or says you're crazy, you're doing up so early, then I'm willing to guess that your bud is just average. Dreams come from average people. Think about it. Would you go out to around Las Vegas, $250 for at a restaurant that just had average reviews? Or would you pay $25 to go see a movie that just had average actors with an average storyline and average ratings? Or would you hire a surgeon that just had an average success rate? No. Hell no. So why would someone want to do business with an average industry professional? Why would somebody want to hire someone that's just average in their class, or just does average things, or just had an average interview? You have to have a bud. And why is a bud so important? What is your bud? Have you even thought about your bud? I mean, most of us have goals, and most of us, our goals are too small. Like I said, if it's not exciting you and you want to jump out of bed and you want to tell the whole world, you're probably just average. Good is average. Great is above average. You want to be awesome. So what is your bud? What is your big unreasonable dream? That's what I want you to think about. And in the next 24 hours, I want you to revisit your bud, your goal, or write a new one. I mean, here's what TISOH is, and you're going to love this. I was blown away. I said, this is a bud. TISOH's bud, that every major hotel will employ a TISOH graduate by 2022. Woohoo! That is a bud. So what is yours? How can you make your bud bigger and better? I mean, this is where I'm talking about the mindset. Here's what you got to think about. You have to have a rock star mindset versus a survival mindset. And trust me, I know, it's tough. A lot of us are furloughed, laid off, we're uncertain about the future, and that's our first natural reaction is to go back into survival mode. And that's cool, because that's where you can kind of regroup. But we've had plenty of time to be in survival mode, and it's time to get into rock star mode. It's time to start developing our rock star mindset and figure out how we're going to function in this new world of ours. That's why a bud is so important. And the cool thing about a bud is that it doesn't have to be big or long or understand. Short and sweet. That way you can read it often. You can share it with your peeps, your inner circle, your family members, and repeat it many, many times and write it down during the day. Beatles is a great example. Does anybody know what the Beatles bud was? Right before the Beatles came to America for the first time for their big giant world tour, their bud, to be bigger than Elvis. Here's another great example. Has anybody ever heard of the band KISS? Wanna rock and roll all night. And do what? And party. Are you singing at home? I wanna rock and roll all night. Come on! And party every day. Boom! KISS. Rock and roll all night, party every day. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Family Jewels, KISS conventions, comic books. OMG, Gene Simmons, one of the greatest marketers in the world. Well, how in the world did KISS get out of the garage and become rock legends? I mean, like millions of other bands out there, they were just two guitars, bass, and drums. But unlike the other bands that were waiting to be discovered, KISS had an unreasonable dream. Gene Simmons said, "We want to create the greatest and most rockiest band in the world." Big and unreasonable. And here's the key point. They were willing to do what others were not. I mean, imagine the early 19th. Tyson beer, and Gene says, the band leader, he goes, "Hey, what can we do to make our band different?" You see, I wonder who it was that raised their hand and said, hey, Gene, we can put on makeup that makes us look like a cat and a demon. And we could all get tongue implants. I tell you what, Gene, you stick with the tongue implant, and we'll do the spandex and the makeup. They actually trademarked the makeup, which was brilliant, because they knew they weren't just creating a band, they were creating a brand. They weren't just music giants, they were business giants, and they were willing to do what others were not. So my question for you out there in virtual land is, what are you willing to do that others are not? Show up early, stay late, go the extra mile. Because remember, most people in this business, in our industry, don't even go the first mile. So how can you be different? How can you stand out? What's going to make you different during that interview process? Well, here's a couple examples, just because I want you to start thinking this way. You may remember a year and a half ago when the whole emotional support animal craze was getting a little bit out of hand, and people were kind of taking advantage of it on the airlines. They were bringing on ponies and snakes, plane, and ferrets and rats and parrots and all sorts of things. And the airlines had to kind of reel the rules in just a little bit to get it back to normal. But our good friends from Popeye's Chicken came up with this. I know, an emotional support chicken sandwich at the airport. Boom, it went viral. They were taking something that was already streamed and jumped on board for free and got a free ride. And they were willing to adapt. That's where adaptability comes in. Especially in these times, we have to really be flexible and adaptable, because who knows what tomorrow's going to bring. It could be a lot different than yesterday. Times are changing daily. And our good friends right here in Las Vegas, Evil's Pizza. Maybe you've been down on Fremont Street and you've ate there, Evil Pie. About a year ago, remember all the grasshoppers in Las Vegas? Yeah. Remember that? People were freaking out. They were shutting down shows. People were going inside, turning off lights. But Evil Pie, our good friends there at Evil's Pizza, took something negative and turned it into something positive. Introducing the Margarita Lime Grasshopper Pizza with complimentary grasshopper cocktail. Yummy! It's vegan friendly too, and it's high in protein. And I just saw on the news to where Evil Pie have put a couple of pop-up restaurants around the city to get more food out to people. See, that's adaptability. They were willing to turn on a dime. What else? Personally, I started doing and promoting helicopter keynotes. Nobody's doing that. I can say I'm the only professional speaker that does Grand Canyon keynotes for your upper leadership team. And then in the last few months, here's a couple of things that's went down. There was an email going around about a game show coming to town called Get a Clue, and they were looking for people for free to do it. But if you won and went all the way, you could win $10,000. Well, first I wasn't interested, and I thought, you know what the heck? That's what I preach, doing what others are not willing to do. Who knows what opportunity it will bring or what kind of people I will meet. So I assembled a team, and we filled out. We went through a Skype audition. We made it. We were going to be on the show. We signed a bunch of legal paperwork. Anyway, long story short, something that I was hesitant about doing, we won the $10,000. I know, right? And then you'll see the Whataburger emblem up there. Here's a story that hasn't had the happy ending yet, but I'm really, really close, I think. Whataburger is looking for a speaker, or was looking for a speaker for their upcoming convention. And instead of doing one show, they decided to do 7, which is a huge jackpot. 7 keynote speeches for one company. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to get this gig. I want this gig. So I did so many things to get on their radar. I hired a marketing team to take pictures of me at Whataburger to get on their Instagram and Facebook. I hired another person to do a little deeper dive on LinkedIn and get the email addresses of the executives and the team members, and we sent them correspondence. I made them some personal videos and sent them out there and gave them some ideas and suggestions on why they should use me as their speaker. And then I rented, in the corner there, I rented a Lamborghini, and I took my car through a drive-through of a competitor's restaurant, just saying, why would you have an ordinary burger? And then I pull up in this Lambo in my suit when you can have an extraordinary burger at Whataburger. And then I'm driving down the road, and I gave them a little spiel on, this is what it would look like if we partnered together on their event. And then I put together a top 10 list of why Whataburger should use Marvellous Mark as their keynote speaker. And then we contacted the meeting. I just went on and on. No one, and I've never done that before for a gig. But just think if I did that for every gig, how much my closings would go up. So that's what I want you to think. What are you willing to do to stand out for a job interview? What are you willing to do to get the business? I mean, we're in a very competitive business, whether you're a DMC, a meeting planner, or whether you're in the hotel business, because we're all fighting for the groups. We're all fighting for business. And those of you that are going to be out in the job market after you graduate, how are you going to be different? What are you willing to do that others are not to stand out in an interview? I recently spoke at the Hard Rock, and I was talking to some of their associates. They call them family members, band members. And they told me that for their interview, they had to sing and dance. What? How cool is that? Because that's the vibe, that's the culture. So my point for you is, make sure you do some research first on who you're going to be speaking to, who's going to be interviewing you. If you have to fill out applications online first, then make sure that your application looks better, has things worded differently than everybody else's. How can you make your application stand out? And when you get that personal interview, how are you going to act? How are you going to dress? How are you going to perform? Are you going to be like everybody else? Or are you going to stand out and be remembered? That's the whole reason I use Marvellous Mark. No one remembers Mark. There's a gazillion Marks. All right, I spent enough time on this. Moving along. So, in conclusion, how can you be more like Kiss? What is your spandex, makeup, and tongue implant? Are you able to turn on a dime and be adaptable? Are you stuck and set in your old ways of doing things? Because that's out the door. Like Ed said, last month's business model is not the same as this month's business model. Now, I don't claim to be Steve Jobs. I don't claim to be Gene Simmons. I don't claim to be a rock star. But I can dress like one. You see, I was born a poor Missouri farm kid. We called it misery. And I was pretty much destined to be a farmer. A farmer with a pretty cool jacket and a diamond medallion, but nonetheless, I had a bud. I had a big, unreasonable dream. And that bud was, well, let's check out the screen and do a Rockstar rewind back to 1982 and see what that dream was.
I've got a deep imagination that I would like to go out on the road sometime and travel across country providing entertainment, because if I can make somebody smile and have a good time, why, that gives me entertainment, personal satisfaction.
That's my, I hope you're not applauding for that. That's my Mick Jagger face, by the way. See, the challenge was I wasn't a musician. I wasn't a singer. I lived out in the middle of nowhere, and I drove a tractor. But I could bark like a dog and do a heck of a siren and a pretty good train whistle. So I did what any ambitious farm kid would do. I started a DJ company in high school, and I bought a cow, just in case the whole DJ thing didn't work out. Kind of a farmer's starter kit 101. And I learned very early the importance of leveraging relationships, especially in this city. It's about who you know, working those relationships, being willing to do what others are not, going to those networking events even when you don't feel like it, showing up at events even when you're like, I would rather be doing something else. Those are the kind of things that you have to do. You have to do things a little bit differently. Leverage those relationships. So my business began to grow, and so did the cow. And that meant more radio and more DJing, and I had to make an executive decision to leverage the cow to buy more video equipment. So 14 years later, we launched the ultimate interactive multimedia experience from corporate America. Suddenly, a 14-year overnight success. It was my first bud. It was my first big unreasonable dream. I was literally touring with famous comedians and rock stars and musicians around the world. It was my first bud, but it took 14 relentless years to get there, which proves that success does not happen overnight unless you inherit it. It comes from hard work and being willing to do what others are not and having a big unreasonable dream. Now, when it comes to creating and redefining and holding your bud, or maybe revisiting your current strategy, I'm going to give you 3 questions. These are 3 good questions that you can write down and use during school. You can use in your networking groups, your mastermind groups, things like that. And of course, they come from rock stars. And those questions are the KISS question, the Jay-Z question, and the Lady Gaga question. Well, we've already covered the KISS question. What are you willing to do that others are not? So next is the Jay-Z question. Hit me. 99 pounds, but it ain't one. Jay-Z, the year is 2005. Another wannabe rapper named Sean Corey Carter walked off the streets into entertainment giants Live Nation. Instead of being like all the other wannabe rappers asking the question, how much money can I pay me? Jay-Z, as we know him, asked the question, how can we change the industry together? Boom. That is so very powerful. And that is such a good way to get you to get noticed, to stand out in the crowd. Have you ever asked yourself that question? Have you ever asked your team members, your businesses, your business associates that question? Your partners, your customers, because we're all in this together. Some of you may know her from MPI. She's the voice of MPI. She does all the MPI TV, Sarah Solomon. Here's a young lady at 30 years old that started with nothing and has built her way up in the special events and meetings industry. And she takes a lot of time going around speaking to different MPI chapters and other organizations for free about empowering women and unfair wages, trying to make a difference in this industry for women. And she speaks for free. And she's only 30. I can't wait to follow her career when she's 40 and 50. She's going to be awesome. If you don't know her, when she comes to town again, Sarah Solomon, make sure you ping her and connect with her on Instagram or her Facebook page. And what about you? There's so many opportunities, especially right now. You see it, just turn on the news. People are bagging up groceries and helping their neighbors or helping other organizations, helping the homeless, feeding people. People are sharing their toilet paper with people. There's so many opportunities right now. And if that's not your bag, if that's not your bag, baby, then you know what? Right, start a blog, start a vlog. Think about this. Like, I'm sure some of you are thinking what hotel or organization you'd like to work for. How cool would it be if you were writing a blog about the industry or about the company that you want to work for, and the CEO just someday just, I wonder what people are saying about our company, and Googles something and your article pops up. You think that's not going to get on their radar? See, those are things, that's how you have to start thinking. You have to start thinking like a rock star. What are you willing to do to stand out? How are you going to be heard above the noise? And right now is a great opportunity to do that. There are so many things going on right there. You can ask yourself the question, why is this happening to me? Or is this happening for me? There are opportunities out there that rock if we go out there and seek them and find them. And the final question, my favorite question, is the Lady Gaga question. Take it away, Lady Gaga. Sing along if you want. Anthony's watching. Could be another gift card. Lady Gaga says, I wake up in the morning, I make my hair bow, I put on my cat suit. I guess a cat's like this. And I call up everyone in the house of Gaga and say, how are we going to be brilliant today? Boom, mic drop. You should be asking yourself that question every day. You should be asking your family members, your team members, your classmates, your study friends, your associates, your family members. I mean, when I was just a single entity, a party of one, I would wake up in the morning, I'd jump out of bed, run into the bathroom, look in the mirror, and I go, how are we going to be brave? Ooh, you're a sexy beast, baby, yeah. And then I'd say, how are we going to be brilliant today? So your D chord, having a bud, a big unreasonable dream, being willing to do what others are not, because reasonable isn't profitable, and then absolutely going for it. So who's ready to get unreasonable right now? Look at the screens. Who's waving their hands? Come on, who's ready to get unreasonable? Well, I tell you what, we're going to have a contest. We're going to have a contest right now. And that contest is going to be worth a $25 gift certificate to Starbucks. How about that? So what I need you to do right now, and there again, what are you willing to do that others are not? So I need you to work with me here. We got to get used to getting uncomfortable, all right? I don't care who's in your round or if you're by yourself. Everybody stand up. Stand up behind your computer, behind your phone, whatever your pad, whatever you're using to watch. And I want you to get a good rock star stance. I want you to pretend you're on stage, all right? Pretend you're on stage. Shoulders back, stomachs tight. How would you own the stage, all right? How would you steal the show? Well, we're going to give you an opportunity right now to steal the show. We're going to have the very first ever TISOH air guitar virtual air guitar contest. We're going to play a song in just a little bit, and we got a team of judges that's going to be watching the thumbnails to see who's up and standing and playing their air guitar and who's not. And then they're going to pick a winner, and then we're going to send you one of my books and a $25 gift card, all right? Shoulders back, stomachs tight. Get that stance, own the stage. Remember, there are thousands of other people out there that want what you want. How are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? All right, here we go. Crank it up. Come on, you got this. Woo, 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 woo! Strike the chords! Yeah! See my pink jacket? Yeah! We gotta get comfortable, getting uncomfortable. 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, add some vocals. Sing along if you want to. Thank you. Woo! All right, and the crowd goes wild. Woo! Yeah! Cheers if you're having a happy hour virtual education session. All right, we will let you know who that winner is. So now please welcome to the stage, clap your hands, scream, jazz hands, your C chord. Change. Yeah, everybody's favorite subject nowadays, right? Well, see, rock stars drive change to achieve their bud, their big unreasonable dream. I mean, you look at the long-term successful rock stars and how they evolved through the years. Elvis totally evolved through the years, and I'm not just talking about his weight. Thank you very much. Or how about Madonna? Madonna constantly was reinventing. She went from being like a virgin touched for the very first time to expressing herself to inventing the Vogue. Or how about cute Taylor Swift, who started out as a country singer and now named by Forbes magazine as one of the 50 most powerful women in the world. And all she did was write a new song every time she broke up with her boyfriend and shake it off. But here's the one and most important thing that we need to learn from this on rock stars and how they change. They change intentionally. They change intentionally. It doesn't happen by accident. And for you to drive change, for you to stand out, for you to be heard above the noise, that's going to mean purposefully reinventing on a regular basis, orchestrated evolution. Because reality check, what happens if you don't change intentionally? then you're going to end up like these guys and so many, many others that we know. Yeah, you're going to end up like a Blockbuster going, ah, geez, I'm an idiot. Why didn't we think of putting red boxes in front of stores? Or a Borders Books going, online book sales. What a concept. We could have been Amazon. Why didn't we do that? And how many companies that you know, I don't care how old you are, how many companies have you seen in the last few years that are in the graveyard? Sears and Kmart and Forever 21. I guess they weren't forever, were they? And so many more. And why are these businesses in the graveyard? I mentioned it a little bit earlier. It's because they went in survival mode, but they never came out of survival mode. They started playing, a sports reference, they started playing defense, and they never went back to playing offense. They maybe shut down their tour for a little bit to practice and fine tune, and then they never went out on tour. They refused to play new music. They refused to write new songs. They refused to go out and solicit and find things to interest new fans, today's customers, today's businesses. And that can happen to you. You can change the times or you can change with the times. But if you change with the times, you're probably going to be out of a gig or continued or unemployed. Now, changing intentionally can sometimes mean that you have to break a few rules. Not breaking the law, because rock stars do that very well, but I'm talking about pushing the envelope, breaking the rules just a little bit. And here's what I mean. And I'm not talking about doing anything unethical, but anything that will give you a competitive edge, I am all about. Like the music industry. There was a time when the music industry was terrified about live recordings at concerts. Some of you probably remember and some of you don't, but there was a time you would go to a concert and they would take your recording device. They would take your camera at security and not give it back. But this band actually encouraged their fans to bring recording devices and cameras. In fact, they even set up a spot right in front of the stage so that they would get the best view in the house. And what did it do? It created a bond with their fans. A bond so strong that it still exists to this day, even after the band has broken up and the lead singer has passed on. And who is this band, you're wondering? The Grateful Dead. And Jerry Garcia said it best, and this is one of my all-time favorite quotes, and you need to get this, you need to tell everybody this quote. Jerry Garcia said, boom, mic drop. That's a mantra, that's a mission statement, that's a screensaver, that's a meme. So my question for you is, are you the only one that does what you do? And if not, how can you be the only one that does what you do? How can you create that kind of bond with your fans, with your customers? How can you create that kind of bond with your teachers to get better grades? How can you create that kind of bond when you're interviewing for the job of a lifetime? Are you the only one who does what you do? Now, as a personal reference, there was a time when I was doing what I call traditional sales. I was a sales rep. I'd go out and make sales calls. That was radio, actually. And there was people that would leave me sitting in the waiting room, leave me on hold for long periods of time, or they'd hang up on me, or they'd cancel appointments. So right before I would scratch them off my hit list, I would send them a bouquet of dead flowers. Oh, it gets better. And on the card, it said, "This is what your business will be if you don't see me." Is that breaking the rules a little bit? Yeah. But what did I have to lose? Almost every time got me an appointment or a callback, or at least I got pulled into my sales manager's office. But that's the kind of thinking that I'm talking about. And the cool thing about this too, it's also a great way to break up with your spouse or your partner or your significant other. Oh, come on. That's only if they didn't get your text message or see that you changed your Facebook status to single. So, what's the message here when it comes to breaking the rules? Here's your phrase that pays. Learn the rules like a pro, but break them like a rock star. Learn the rules like a pro, but break them like a rock star. Now, changing intentionally can sometimes mean forward thinking, inventing things that don't currently exist. We call those unheard of collaborations. What kind of collaborations are out there? Well, here's a great example. Like back in the 70s, Aerosmith was at the top of their game. They were huge, was popping out hit after hit after hit. But by the mid-1980s, a lot of people thought they were washed up. They haven't had a hit in a while. And drugs was creeping in, and rap music was increasing in popularity. And songs from rap groups like Rapper's Delight, Sugar Hill Gang, where they were stealing songs from bands like AC/DC. And back then, if you liked rock, you didn't like rap. And if you like rap, you certainly didn't like rock. And to add insult to injury, a hip-hop group called Run DMC decided to do a cover version of a 1975 Aerosmith song. How uncool is that? So how did Aerosmith handle it? Did they get revenge? No. They partnered with Run DMC on the song Walk This Way together. It was an unheard of collaboration. It was an unheard of marriage between rock and rap. It was like rock blasphemy. But what did it do? It created a whole new fan base for Aerosmith and Run DMC and took them both to the biggest heights of their career ever. So what unheard of collaborations are existing out there for you? What two entities can you bring together? What ideas can you bring together that don't currently exist? Here's a couple of examples. Who would have thought Martha and Snoop would have had a successful cooking show? OMG, the only thing these guys have in common is they probably know some of the same prison mates. But it's working. Innovative thinking like this. Look at this. A wash basin on top of a toilet. And the water from your washing your hands goes into the flushing tank to flush. So you're using dirty water to flush already dirty water. That's ingenious. And here's the formula. It's pretty simple. You just take one company or idea and another company idea and start pushing them together. And at some point, their lines will cross. And that's when collaboration and profitability can exist. Maybe it's two DMC companies partnering on an event. That's unheard of, right? Or maybe it's two different meeting planners. Maybe it's like Caesars and the Venetian partnering on something. Those are unheard of collaborations. And maybe it's you telling somebody else about a job position available because you know they might be better fit for you. Is that scary? Yeah, but here's what happens when you do that. If they're the right kind of person and you know you're probably not going to get the job anyway, that person's going to remember you. And when they work their ways up, they're going to call you and have you come in for an interview, or they'll hire you on the spot. Unheard of collaborations. What two things, what two people, what two ideas can you bring together that don't currently exist? Another example, Starbucks and Keurig, competitive coffee companies. Boom, they sell each other's coffee. Microsoft and Apple partnered together on some software. Unheard of collaborations. That's what the C Chord is all about. You have to be the one driving the change. You can change the times or change with the times. Orchestrated evolution. You have to be purposefully reinventing on a regular basis, almost on a weekly basis, daily basis. And that's how you're going to be heard above the noise. That's how you're going to stand out in an overcrowded industry. And the crowd goes wild! Wow! All right, stand by, everybody. Everybody, look over your right shoulder. All right, everybody, because there's something behind you. Look over your right. I'm serious. Look over your right shoulder. Take your left hand and pat yourself on the back, because a lot of us are alone and on lockdown, and we have to give credit where credit is due. We have to still tell ourselves how awesome we are and how great we are and how we're going to be brilliant every day. That's why our B chord is the band. Here's the deal on the band. The band is your family. The band could be your working associates and teammates, your band members. Band could be a mastermind group. If you're still in school and you want to get a study group together, that could be a mastermind group. Or maybe outside of studying, you put together a band mastermind, and you work together trying to figure out how you're going to be different or where you're going to apply for jobs. You can practice interviewing with each other. Get a mastermind. But anyway, just like in a band, you have to surround yourself with the right kind of people, and you have to create the right kind of atmosphere and working relationships so that everybody plays nicely together. And while it may seem that way, that kind of synergy doesn't happen by accident. It comes from taking a little extra time during the interview process to get the right people, being transparent with your bud. They need to know your bud better than you know your bud, so that you're all on the same page. We're all going in the same direction. We're all playing the same song and playing the same notes at the same time. And then you have to absolutely go for it. Remember earlier when we were talking about Steve Jobs and his business model was the Beatles? Here's his exact quote, and this pretty much sums it up right here. This says it all.
My mom's business is the Beatles. They were four very talented guys who kept each other's kind of negative tendencies in check. They balanced each other, and the sum was greater than the total was greater than the sum of the parts. And that's how I see business. Great things in business are never done by one person. They're done by a team of people.
They're done by a team of people. Now more than ever in these crazy times, we have to depend on each other. We need to assemble teams and bands. We need to get new members in our bands. And if we have deadwood or people that are not cutting it, even though they may be our friends or emotionally tied to them, you got to get them out of your band. There are three key things that I want you to take away from this for you when you're putting the band together. The first thing is you have to put the band first. All right? Those of us that have been in the business for a long time, sometimes we're connected to doing things the same way or being loyal to certain people. And there's nothing wrong with being loyal to people. But they have to do their job and they have to hold their own. If not, you need to have a conversation with them, or you need to partner them with someone else, or you have to replace them. You have to do what's best for the band, do what's best for the team. Steven Tyler from Aerosmith said it best. As good as I am nothing without my band. Rock on! Second thing you have to do, you have to honor everyone's unique abilities. See, in a band, some people, like the lead singers, are up front and very noticeable. Wow! While others, like the bass player, barely get noticed at all. But a smart rock star makes sure that everyone gets honored in the band. All right, we're going to look for hands right now. Raise your hand. Now, you can do that. I think it's down at the bottom. Raise your hand if you know who Bill Wyman is. All right, if you know who Bill Wyman is, raise your hand. All right, not very many. Wow, only 4. Okay. Raise your hand if you know who Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones is. Yeah, I can't even see how many. Yeah. Well, Bill Wyman was the bass player for the Rolling Stones. And in an interview with Jagger about the Stones, he goes on and on and on about what a great bass player Bill Wyman is. And guess what? That's why the Stones are still together. They're all members of AARP, but they're still together. And the same is true for you. You have to allow each person play out his or her part and then honor that person for their contribution. It's been said about the Rolling Stones that Mick Jagger makes them famous, but Keith Richards, their guitarist, makes them a band. And some of you make your companies, make your businesses, make your teams, make your bands famous, while others make it work on a day-by-day basis. But there has to be a realization that everyone plays an important part to the success of your team and your organization, and that everyone should be honored for that contribution. So your takeaway question is, who are your bass players? Bass players could be your family members. Who are your bass players? When was the last time you thanked them? Do you thank them on a regular basis? Do you honor them? Do you tell the whole world like Mick Jagger? And the final thing is, and this may sound a little weird coming from Rockstar, so I thought we'd take the advice of Grammy Award winner and producer Quincy Jones when he worked on a project called Hunger for Africa with over 40 A-list artists. He put a sign on the studio door that said, "Check your egos at the door." Yeah, no egos in this business, right? See, some bands like U2 go on and become legendary, but other bands, well, in fact, most bands, break up. All right, here's an engaging question. Shout it out. What is it that almost always breaks up bands? Did you say ego or did you say Yoko? No, they're kind of the same. But what keeps a band together is humility, a humble pie, a band leader that is overcome with ego and knows that the band is better together. So, we're going to have time for a little Q&A here in just a couple minutes as we breeze through our final chord. All right, maybe not that kind of action. So here's the deal. You can have the biggest bud in the world. You can see the change that you need to drive. You can have the most awesome band, but none of that means anything without your A chord. And that is action. Taking daily, massive action is the only thing that will get you to your dream. And while it may seem that way, or it may seem like common sense, it's not always common practice. Most people, most organizations are not taking action. Or worse yet, they're taking the wrong action. And by wrong action, I mean anything that's not directly taking you to your D chord. So what does that look like? Well, first of all, we have to know what the right actions are. And that can be confusing because a lot of us, and those of you that are not out in the workplace yet, you're going to get overloaded, you're going to get distractions all over the place. And you have to determine what is most important. So I do an audition. When I do my planning sessions, like on Monday mornings or Sunday nights for the week, I write down everything that I need to do and accomplish that week. And then I look at my goal or what my bud is. And then only the things that are directly connected or taking me to my bud get on my playlist for that day. It's an addition. If it doesn't directly take you to your bud, then it's a B list. It's not an A list. And then the big challenge is not time management, but distraction management. Especially now that a lot of us are at home, working from home, or studying from home, we've got distractions coming all over the place. So we have to be disciplined in managing our distractions. That's what rock stars do. You don't manage your time. We all have the same amount of time. You have to manage your distractions. And here's the rock star quote, phrase that pays. Rock star success is taking 20 steps in one direction, not one step in 20 directions. See the difference there? So is it going to be easy? No. But my all-time favorite quote from Bill Bacharach, business guru, says, if comfort is your goal, then success is not in your future. Folks, those of you that are in school and have made the decision to enter this hospitality and meetings and event industry, congratulations. It's awesome, but it's not easy. Is it fun? Hell yeah, it's fun, but it's hard work. And the people that work the hardest and the smartest and the people that do things differently, the people that play these 4 chords are the ones that are going to be successful. And it's going to be a little bit crazy when we come out of this pandemic because everybody's going to be ready to rock and roll, but things are going to be different. There may be a lot more people competing for the same jobs. Even more important for you to work harder, work smarter, and set yourself apart from everybody else. And for those of you that are into the rock and roll mindset, here's the rock and roll version of that. The fact that there's a highway to hell and a stairway to heaven says a lot about the anticipated numbers. See, really, this is the definition of a rock star. A person who doesn't follow the crowd or the status quo or go through everyday motions and does not accept normal behavior. We're not normal people, especially since we made a career in this industry. We are not normal. So Here's the question I want you to think about. Is your comeback story going to be greater than your setback story? We got to get out of survival mode. Is your comeback story going to be greater than your setback story? Now, what you see on screen, and I'll make sure Anthony and everybody from TISOH pushes this out to you in a separate email, but this is a link that's going to help you remember what you've already began to forget, especially those of you that started Wine 30 already. This has all the notes, quotes, some best practices of the presentation today that will help you figure out how to get some planning going, how to jumpstart with your bud. It has all the quotes, it has all the photos from the slides, and it's yours for free. I call it a playbook because who wants a workbook, right? And you can follow that link and download it for free. I also invite you to follow me on social media. I do a lot of memes, a lot of rockstar wisdom, a lot of rockstar quotes. If there's anything that set in with you today, please feel free to post it, tweet quotes, things like that. I really, really do appreciate that. Because hit songs are based on 4 chords. And now your rockstar success are based on 4 chords. Because 4 chords, it's the perfect formula for a hit song. And now it's the perfect formula for you to be the rock star that stands out in an overcrowded industry. If you take action right now and don't stop believing, you can do it. All right, Anthony, see if people will get their phones out. We're gonna have, if we have time for some Q&A, we're gonna do some Q&A right after we do Rockstar Karaoke. This could go viral, people. Lonely World. Everybody sing out loud. I don't care who's watching or who's not watching. Check the screens, make sure everybody's watching. Could be another gift card for you if you're doing something crazy. In fact, we'll do that. $25 gift card to the most awesome karaoke singer. Yeah, shout it out. If you want to wave your phone, you can wave your phone. Stop believing. You got this, TISOH, TISOH alumni, friends, industry professionals. Yeah, don't stop believing in Las Vegas. Don't stop believing in yourself. OMG, we live in the greatest country and the greatest city in the world. Yeah! Woo, 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 woo! Big finish, high notes. Ah! Shout it out! And the crowd goes, whoa! Woo! All right, my work is done here. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Anthony, do we have any time for any Q&A? I guess I better stop that, huh?
Yeah, we do have some time for Q&A. So if someone can have everyone on mute. So if anyone has questions, just raise your hand and then I will unmute you.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to do anything with the presentation. I mean, I've been involved with MPI and NACE and ILEA and this whole industry for over 25 years. It's been a great career for me, and I've seen a lot of ups and downs, and then this, from the recession in the 90s to 9/11 to the real estate recession and bust, and now this, and we always come back bigger, better, and stronger. It's just a little scary sometimes, and we have to get out of survival mode. So you can ask me a question about that. You can ask me a question about
I have Elena who wants to ask a question, so I'm going to unmute Elena. Elena, go ahead.
All right, Elena, you're live.
No, she does not, so she only goes back. How about Amanda? Amanda has a question.
Am I unmuted?
Yeah,
oh, perfect. I just wanted to say thank you so much for hosting this. This was awesome. Mark, I think you brought us a lot of energy and joy today, and I think we all really need that during this time.
And I'm liking your Lady Gaga glasses. You rock those glasses.
Thank you.